Thanks for watching The Thought Criminals, named after the resistance to the totalitarian thought police of George Orwell's 1984, which we now refer to as being woke. I'm your host, Rachel Alexander. I'm a weekly contributor to Townhall and other sites and the editor of Intellectual Conservative. And this is my mall, Ralph Benko, who worked in or with Reagan, W. Bush, and Trump White Houses. He's a weekly columnist for Newsmax, co-author of the Capitalist Manifesto, and co-founder and executive chairman of the 187,000 member Capitalist League Facebook group. And we want to remind everybody, please go to thoughtcriminals.ning.com and sign up for our email updates. Today, we are going to discuss, as you can see, the Kari Lake meteoric rise to the top in Arizona, where she's now the leading candidate for governor. And we're going to begin first, though, with a little bit of conversation about where we're at with the U.S. Senate race here in Arizona, which is between Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich, who we are supporting, and two people with billions behind them, Blake Masters and Jim Layman. And I just want to give you a little analysis of what happened at the only Senate debate between the three last week, which I covered and wrote about for Arizona Sun-Times, if you want to read about it. I believe that Brnovich trounced the other two, and there are two lesser candidates in the race too. They're just not polling very well. I believe he trounced them because these two billionaire-backed other candidates don't have any record to show. And while they're talking, Brnovich has been doing. So they will sit there and they will, during the debate, and they'll go on and on about how I'm going to go down to the border and make sure the wall gets built. And Brnovich would be like, okay, I've already filed a lawsuit against Biden administration over that. And where were you guys? And this went on and on as a pattern the entire way through the debate, because these opponents, they talk big, but they don't do anything. And I like to point this out. Ralph and I are both former lawyers. Kari Lake, who is not an attorney, and she's not even in office yet, she jumps in and files lawsuits herself all the time, or joins in as amicus curiae. You know, Blake Masters, he's an attorney from California. There is no reason why he can't be jumping in and on some of these lawsuits. But nope, all he wants to do is sit back, be an armchair warrior, and bash Brnovich. And, you know, he's been able to get the Trump endorsement. And we all know Trump's endorsements aren't always the best ones. There was the fellow in Ohio, J.D. Vance, who he endorsed over the more conservative candidate, Josh Mandel. So there are things that go on behind the scenes that aren't necessarily.
And Rachel, just FYI, the Tea Party Express was so horrified by Trump's, and by the way, the head of the Tea Party Express, I'm drawing a blank on her name, it might come to me. Okay, she's been a Trump loyalist since Trump came down the escalator, and she was so horrified that Trump endorsed Vance, J.D. Vance over Josh Mandel, that she basically said Trump is out of touch with his base. And I think that's true in Arizona too. I know you're a Trump worshiper. Okay, I know that in your mind, Trump can do no wrong.
You always try to say that, and every time, you know, that's like saying, you know, your gal is MTG or something. I mean, it's just not gonna work, okay? I'm a Christian, I don't have any gods other than God.
Well, good for you. And I'm a Jew, and I have no other gods before God. I have a few to the side and a few to the rear and a few hanging out, you know, at the bodega, but none before God, because I'm a biblical literalist as I'm a constitutional literalist. But your point is perfect, okay? Kari Lake really reads the room. She was a TV. She was a newscaster, okay, who was the dominant newscaster in Arizona for what, 20 years? Okay,
or 20, like the top newscast for local news in that slot every night for years.
Right. That you know, people can take that for granted, but that requires a huge degree of discernment, okay, of knowing what your audience wants and then providing it to them. in a way that is exciting and palatable and interesting and keeps you at the top of the ratings. There's a reason that Trump, before he became president, allegedly, was a reality TV star. Okay, so it seems to me that Kari Lake is Donald Trump with brains. That's a formidable combination. Okay, and you've been following this, but before we pivot over to candidate Lake's dominating this race.
And by the way, I just want to modify what you said. I wouldn't necessarily say that about her, even though she is brilliant. People, like to insult her, but she's one of the smartest women I've ever met. I would actually characterize her more as a Donald Trump type of star without the sloppy tweets. She's just a little more polished, doesn't say, the stuff that gets him into trouble.
Okay, well, Trump was impulsive and he would just tweet whatever was passing through the one or two neurons in his brain at any given time. Kari Lake has discipline. That's very important, okay, in order to get stuff done. And I'm not saying Trump didn't get anything done. Look at this great Supreme Court that he delegated to the Federalist Society to get appointed. And man, they've been running the table this week. It's been like nirvana. So I do give him credit for that. But the fact is that he's not a disciplined political figure. Harry Truman once said that a statesman is just a politician who's been dead for 10 or 15 years. To be a politician, you have to know how to run the government. And Trump spent most of his time out on the golf course or at Mar-a-Lago or whatever it happens to be. He's an innately gifted promoter, okay? But Kari Lake adds to his sense of excitement, in my opinion, an ability to really figure out what the electorate wants and to figure out how to deliver it. So before we pivot over to the Lake race, I just want to wrap up with Brnovich, okay? The cynics who believe that the big money people are going to win the nomination, one of them, the great and good Blake Masters, or the good and great Lehman, okay, just because they dominate on the money side, I don't buy that. John Connally, many years ago, spent more money than anybody else in the presidential race and ended up with one delegate. So does it was called the $1 million delegate, okay? Is having money a tactical advantage? You bet it is, okay? But right now, these guys are absolutely emptying their cannons on each other, okay? They have a demolition derby going between Blake Masters and Lehman, between Masters and Lehman, okay? I'm not a prophet, okay? But don't write Brnovich off yet. He has become the dark horse, okay? He has an amazing track record of actually getting conservative things done, an amazing track record of fighting.
The Biden administration, probably more than anybody, at least any other attorney general.
Right, he's tough and he's unflinching and he's conservative and he's the real deal, okay? And just because he's going to be outspent by his rivals, do not count this man out. We mere voters are a lot smarter than the politicians think. So I really am. And
I'd like to point out that, okay, his billionaire funded opponents have basically sat there bashing him and calling him a rhino. But the reality is he's not. So not only is Brnovich going to attract the establishment vote, the Republicans who aren't the reactionaries, but I think a lot of true conservatives know he's actually a real conservative. And how are they going to necessarily get around that? It doesn't take a lot of research to discover, oh my gosh, Brnovich actually isn't a rhino. These are all, lies that people have been saying about him.
It's all fake news. It's all just politics. And you're absolutely right. Brnovich has showed it. By the way, I'm Jewish. I'm a Jewish person, as you goyim like to say, but I don't know any Jewish dogs or Jewish lampposts. So let me just say it. I'm a proud little Jew. And in our world, the big split is not so much between left and right. It's between the mensches, the people who will stand up on principle and fight for what they believe in, and the schmucks who will do stuff in order to get themselves ahead. Okay. And I'm not saying that there's any schmucks in this race. Read my lips. Okay. But I do know that there's a mensch in this race, and his name is Brnovich. So I think he deserves, I think he has acquitted himself and is acquitting himself both as Attorney General and as candidate honorably. That touches, moves, and inspires me. And so I'm very glad that you're continuing to carry the torch for Mark Brnovich.
Well, I don't believe, first of all, that Masters is even trustworthy. I mean, he was very open borders just recently. He was a radical libertarian, and now he's not even saying anything about Arizona and abortions, you know, and we think that's because he's probably getting donations from these two new billionaires who are rabidly or what's the word, pro-abortion. So I don't trust him on the issues. And you know, with Layman, I just don't see any excitement from younger people, and you really need to have a broad base of support. So, you know, I think there's still a very good chance that the the reactionary vote is going to be split between those two candidates, allowing Brnovich to take the main base, the main Republican base.
Rachel, you know, whoever wins the Republican nomination will have my best wishes. I vote in Maryland. I don't vote in Arizona, but it's terribly important that the Republicans pick up 51, a majority, so that this guy named Joe Biden, who is apparently, I wake up this morning, I thought I was having a nightmare, but it turned out to be true, is the president of the United States, and he's trying to repeal the filibuster in order to deny personhood to unborn beings. Whoever wins this nomination, okay, they're gonna have my moral support. Okay. But that said, I believe that the only person who's capable of beating Mark Kelly in the general election is Mark Brnovich, and I hope the people of Arizona are paying attention to that.
And I want to say, you know, I want to support Blake Masters when it comes to the general election, but I'm going to be honest, you know, my boyfriend thinks he's a racist, and I'm going to have to deal with that because, you know, Blake Masters likes to say that Black people are responsible for gun deaths. And, you know, if he's supposedly so smart, why does he get away with saying that when the reality is a lot more nuanced than that? So, you know, I like to think I'm going to support him, but I'm going to have people like my boyfriend and other Blacks who are just furious because they think he's a racist.
I hear you. So let's just, we only have a few minutes left. Let's put them to the service of Kari Lake for governor. Truth matters. So you're right there. You've got a front row seat. You are a political insider, Rachel, in the best possible sense of that word. Tell us about Kari Lake. I mean, do you know her? Have you met her? What does it look like to you, looking at her up close and personal? What kind of governor is Kari Lake going to make once she gets elected?
Well, I knew Kari Lake before she even decided to run for governor. She had an incident where the Phoenix New Times, you know.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. For people outside of Phoenix, you know, I'm a partial Phoenician, right? I go there often and love to hang out. Phoenix New Times is the hippie paper in Phoenix. Okay, is that fair?
It's the sleazy rag run by the left. I refer to it as the Phoenix News Slimes. They've done multiple hit pieces on me. Including saying defamatory things. So basically, you know, they went off on the fact that she got caught on a hot mic, referring to them as a bunch of, like, you know, pot smokers. And it was actually rather humorous, but they then like slammed her because she was still a news anchor and she had joined Parler. Like, that's some evil thing to do, join the social media site Parler, really? So anyway, I wrote an article about the situation and saying this is ridiculous to demonize this anchor woman merely for that. So after I wrote the article, she reached out to me, and that's how I got to know her. And I actually, she's recommended me for reporter jobs. So she's a wonderful person. And what's been my observation watching her is this is one of those phenomenons that you only see occasionally around the country. We saw it with, Ron DeSantis in Florida, his meteoric rise to power. We saw it with Donald Trump. And I think this is the exact same thing we're seeing going on. Kari Lake is just soaring. I mean, for most of the primary, she's had more points in polls than all of her primary opponents combined. And the most recent poll I saw just said she's still 12 points ahead of the other major candidate in the race, Karen Taylor Robson, who has a very problematic record. I've got an article coming out on her shortly. She appears to be just a straight rhino, but now there's been a wrench thrown into the race because the other third major candidate on the Republican side, former Congressman Matt Salmon, he just dropped out of the race yesterday and endorsed Robson. And everybody thinks that's a little bit odd because for the most part, Salmon has been a solid conservative here in Arizona until he got involved with that ASU's Chinese Confucius Institute and became a lobbyist for ASU. He had a really good reputation among the conservative base. So for him to endorse this Robson, who she voted against Arizona's now law to ban abortions based on genetic abnormalities like Down syndrome. And she voted to give illegal immigrants lower tuition than Americans who were just from another state. And there's also something else that I don't even have all the details handy. It's coming out in my next article, but she voted against the Second Amendment on college campuses. So, and she was a lobbyist for Chicanos por la Causa, the radical left organization. And if you look at the endorsements on her website, I mean, they're just a who's who of rhinos. TJ Shope, he's one of the worst Republicans in the Arizona legislature. So basically, you are coming down to a traditional, rhino Republican versus the conservative Republican in Arizona. And unlike the, U.S. Senate race where it's going to be really close, I think Kari Lake has it in the bag. And I don't think the millions from Karen Taylor Robinson's, developer husband is going to be able to save her.
Well, that's a great analysis. Can you imagine what a Governor Lake or even a President Lake might do for Arizona, might do for the United States of America? I'm asking you because you really know these people. You know them personally. You know them up close and personal, and so you're much better situated than us. People stuck out here in the imperial capital, in the Emerald City of Oz, to make an assessment. What do you think Governor Lake will do for Arizona? And by the way, if lightning strikes and she becomes the President Lake, because I'm all for, I'm all for bringing women into leadership. And you make her sound so compelling and so desirable as a leader that tell me what Governor Lake now and President Lake in 2 years or 6 years might bring to the state and might bring to the country.
Well, on a local level, there's a couple issues that she really wants local areas to lead on, and those include border security, and I'm just going to say elections. That's all I'm going to say, because otherwise we're going to get banned. But that issue, as well as school issues like CRT, I believe we're going to see local leadership like we haven't seen before, more along the lines of what Ron DeSantis is doing in Florida, because as you all know, here in Arizona, Doug Ducey kind of goes back and forth and he's kind of weak. And
hold on a second. Stop hippie punching Doug Ducey. I love Doug Ducey. Okay. And let him go back. Let him go back to ice cream. Okay. He did a fine job as governor. Please don't hippie punch Doug Ducey. But you make a more important point, and that is that you know, America is an exceptional country, and for all of its faults and flaws, it has been moving toward what the Pledge of Allegiance commits us all to: one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, there are millions of people trying to get into the United States, which the left keeps talking about as this font of injustice and horrible place. Why, if it's a horrible place, why are all of these Latinos risking their lives to get here? Because America is not a horrible place. It's a wonderful place. It's an imperfect place, but you know, we're all imperfect. But America has moved closer and closer to its ideal of liberty and justice for all. And from where I sit, and from what I hear from you, Rachel, both Mark Brnovich and Kari Lake are forces for moving America closer to our ideal of liberty and justice for all. So thank you for bringing since truth matters, we see from your t-shirt, thank you for bringing the truth out from all of the campaign lies and rhetoric and fake news. And you have these two people of great honor and great integrity who are aspiring to civic leadership in the United States. One is the US Senator from Arizona. One is the US Governor of Arizona. And to me, it's really inspiring. And thank you for helping to bring the truth to the fore.
Well, it's a great place to be right now here in Arizona. You know, we've gone through periods where we've had Janet Napolitano as governor. So it's nice to see.
Crucifix and garlic strand.
It's nice to see the pendulum switch back. And for people who thought that Arizona was trending purple or blue, this is clearly evidence that it's not. And I'm just so grateful that we had somebody like Kari Lake step up, because, you know, honestly, I've come to the conclusion, you know, that the left has been able to indoctrinate so many people, especially through like education, the younger people, that the only way we're going to win a lot of these bigger elections anymore is by putting out celebrities. And so by having somebody who's already in the media eye, like Kari Lake, and, you know, somebody who the public already knows who they are, and she's beautiful, she's well spoken. I mean, it's just like the perfect candidate. So I've got hope, you know, for this state. I just worry that, you know, in the case of Brnovich, as people are confusing, you know, real swamp monsters that need to, you know, leave and get rid of them with people like him. I mean, he's only been in office for 7 years, and they're already trying to, you know, portray him as some kind of a.
I know, but please accentuate the positive, because we're running out of time. Mark Brnovich has shown himself to be a man of honor, a true conservative, and effective at advocating on behalf of our rights as citizens of America, and in your case, as citizens of Arizona. Mark Brnovich has shown himself to be a man of honor, and Kari Lake has shown herself to be a superstar when it comes to civic leadership.
Well, and answer your other question, I think if Kari Lake becomes president, it's going to be a lot like Trump all over again, except you're not going to have the mean tweets. So I think she's going to be even more formidable than Trump.
Okay, well, thank you, Rachel, for giving us the insider's view particularly of the noble crusade of Mark Brnovich to represent us in the United States Senate, and the noble crusade of Kari Lake to become the next governor of the great state of Arizona. So
thank you for our viewers for watching, and tune in next week.